Hi, good evening friends. Today we are going to just complete here relative pronoun. Before this relative pronoun, we have already covered all the other pronouns in the last part of the videos. So you can watch these videos in the playlist of the pronoun. I have already delivered a lecture on all these pronouns. So whoever is interested in the Hindi language, they can go and watch my Hindi channels there, and they can just enjoy the videos on Hindi channels. And whoever is comfortable with this English language can watch this video. Or you can also watch the videos in bilingual, either in Hindi or English, or both. You can mix them up. Here it is one of the most difficult pronouns and one of the most lovable or beautiful pronouns in all the pronoun chapter. It is not only a pronoun, it is also the masterpiece of the grammar. Why you can say? Because here all doors are opened for the advanced English grammar, because you don't only learn here only the relative pronoun words here, that is who, whom, whose, which, that, where, when or why. Among them, who, whom, whose, which, that, they are generally, and in most of the books or in schools where you would have studied, and where, when and why, these are informally used here as a relative clause there, okay, because they are also known or they are just seem similar to adverb clause or noun clause. But the above words which have, they are relative clause, but they are the adjective clauses, okay. In this part of the video, if you have yet not studied about sentences, you have not practiced about the sentence, what is sentence, how can you form the sentence, how can you know about the difference between subject predicate, what are the words which are used or which are required to form a subject, what are the words which are so much used to form object, verbs, complement of the sentence or the predicate of the sentence. Because without knowing this, it's very difficult for the new learners to know about the relative pronoun. Because if you only know the words I have already written, these are the relative words, are not sufficient. You have to just know more than that, and to know more than that you need to know the structure of the sentence at first, how to make the affirmative sentence, negative sentence, interrogative sentence, okay. Though I would take only the affirmative sentences in this part of the video to know more and more about relative pronoun, I would take for the purpose of the analysis and synthesis of the sentence. I would try to analyze or synthesize together with the help of the dependent or independent clauses in the sentence, so that the sentence would be not so much difficult for you. Before that, if you have not practiced over the sentence, I have not created sentence video so far, so you can watch the sentence videos, or you can just study, or you can read in your books, or if you have already the previous knowledge of sentence, then it would be very helpful for you. There are several things I am going to just explain in relative pronoun. I already told you that this pronoun just opens the door of the advanced grammar, because you not only just learn only single pronoun here, the words I have already written here, you learn many more things together. So let's start without wasting the time. Before knowing more and more about the relative pronoun, we need to know what is the meaning of the relative pronoun, because the definition will just be explained in detail. So what's the definition? It is given: a relative pronoun is a word that introduces to a dependent clause and connects it to an independent clause. Here there are the two words. First one is the dependent clause and second one is the independent clause. You need to know about the clause at first before knowing them the definition. It is saying that it just tells about the dependent clause, and later dependent clause is connected to an independent clause. But there are many rules to do like that. You can't connect without knowing the rules, without knowing the basic meanings of these words which are connected with the independent clause. And sometimes the connectors, these relative pronouns, relative words, they are sometimes omitted when you introduce at first the independent clause and you start with the dependent clause. Sometimes they are omitted, but with not all the relative words. You can omit like that, which, who, whom. You can omit, but you can't omit like whose, where, when, or why. So let's look at them. At first we need to know what is the meaning of clause. Here we know what is the meaning of clause. So basically, clause is a part of sentence which has a subject or predicate. In some grammar books it is written about the verbs. The verbs I already explained in last classes in distributive pronoun that there are two kinds of verbs: transitive or intransitive, helping verbs, primary verbs, linking verbs. You can also watch them, or you can just wait for my verbs videos I will upload very soon in coming days. Okay, so here what is the clause? So you can generally know, basically know that clause is a part of sentence which has a subject or predicate. It means if you write John is my brother, is my brother. If you write John is my brother, here John is a subject and is my brother is a predicate. Now there are several rules to make subject and predicate. How can you make the subject and predicate? It would be also explained by me in next parts of the videos when I will start explaining about the subject complement, adverb complement. There are several other kinds of the ways by which you can make the predicate of the sentence. And it's not necessary that only single word you can use to form the subject, because there are many learners who always use the single word to make the subject. They are the new learners, but they are unknown about that, and you need to avoid such mistakes. For example, there John is only a single word to form a subject, but it's not necessary. A part of sentence can also be a subject. There are some group of words like you can say determiners, you can take the name together and you can just form a subject altogether. You can also use the preposition. For example, the president of USA, the president of England, the president of India. So you can just form with the help of this one. So there are the combination of 3, 4 and 5 ones. What are the combinations? If you write here the president of India, what's written here? The president of India. So here it is written the president of India. Okay. So here there are 4 words, the president of an India. So the is an article, president, you know already what kind of noun it is. It is a common noun. Of is a preposition and India is also a noun. What kind of noun? It is proper noun. So with the help of these 4 we are making a sentence. The president of India is coming tomorrow. Now the president of India is a subject and is coming tomorrow is predicate P. So it is also a sentence. What kind of sentence it is? It is a positive or affirmative sentence, and it is also a clause, because we have already known through definition that clause is a part of sentence which has a subject and predicate. Now I have told you that a part of sentence, what does it mean? It means that if wherever there are the subject and predicate in the sentence, then you can just easily select out the clause. Now after knowing what is the clause, you can see here that it is also a clause. It is also a clause. Now we just move forward towards the dependent or independent clauses. What are the differences between the two? What I have written here are the independent clauses. Why? because they are complete in its meaning, their meanings. They don't require other sentences to make or complete the meaning. And if other clause are used, okay, here, then you can say that they are the dependent clause, because these clauses have already the complete meaning, but dependent clauses never have the complete meaning. They have to always depend on the independent clause. Now there are the different names of dependent and independent clauses. If you start from the basic grammar, if you go to the university English grammar, so in the university English grammar you can find out that there are the different names of dependent or independent clauses. I write few names and you can just know the similar names, or you would have just heard about that. Okay, look at them. So there are two kind of clause here. The first one is independent, right here, independent clause. Now it is dependent clause, dependent clause. Next one is main clause. It is also known as main clause. It is known as also another name, just like you can say subordinate clause, subordinate, dinate clause. You can also write here another name. For example, you can write here principal clause. Just be aware of the, or careful with the spelling. It is P-R-I-N-C-A-P-L. It is not P-R-I-N-C-A-P-L-E. So try to just avoid the mistake. Okay. Principal clause. Here it is. What kind of clause it is? It is embedded clause. Embedded clause. Sometimes there are embedded clause is not so much famous in use and spoken, but dependent clause is so much famous, and in earlier grammar books, traditional grammar books, you would have studied about subordinate clause together, not dependent clause. But if you take the university English grammars, where you can get the embedded clause together, okay, here you can see that independent clause have also three names differently, and in some books it is written main clause, in some it is written principal clause, and there would be some books where these all three would be written there together for avoiding the confusion. Okay, so now it is the part of the clause. There are two kind of clause, the dependent or independent. If you just keep in the mind these two words, then the next level would be easy for you. So let's see next. Now this dependent clause, not because independent clause doesn't have any part, it is single in its part, but the dependent clause has again three parts. It has three parts. Okay, what are the parts? First, it has noun clause. What is? It has noun clause. Second one, it has adjective clause. And third one, it has adverb clause. Adverb clause. So noun clause, adjective clause and adverb clause. So in this relative pronoun, what kind of clause would be used here? So you can see here that who, whom, whose, which and that, they would be used as adjective clause. Adjective clause. Now the question rises, why or how can they be used as adjective clauses? Because you know already that adjective always defines noun or pronoun. So whichever would be the sentence would always be defined as adjectives, okay, or you can say whichever would be the words before these relative pronouns, relative words, they would be noun or pronoun, and they would be defined with the help of these words, so they would be the adjective clause. Now the noun clause and adverb clause, actually noun clause, why is not used as a noun clause here, but it seems that it is used as a noun clause because it is actually used as an adverb clause, but there are some persons, they commit mistake by using them as a noun clause. For example, they use like this in the relative pronoun. They speak, I don't know why they went there. So they think that they are the relative pronoun, but they are not as a relative one, because relative pronoun would be only possible when before any relative words there would be noun or pronoun. But if you speak, I don't know, here no would be the verb, it would not be a noun or pronoun, so it would be wrong use, okay, and you can not just satisfy the relative pronoun there, okay. So now let's start knowing about here about relative pronoun. As I told you that these two would be used as an adjective clause, these are also relative words, but these two seems that they are as adverb clause, like adverb of place and adverb of time, and this one is it seems that they are just adverb clause. They are also like adverb clause of reason, you can say there, but sometimes I told you that teachers or the speakers makes mistake and they just use them in the noun clause, but they think that they are using them as relative pronoun, okay. So let's start now forward. Next, now before knowing about these about the dependent or independent clauses, we need to know about defining or non-defining. It is also known like identifying or modifying, non-identifying. You can also know them in the form of restrictive or continuative sense. So these are the way by which you can just separate of the extra information or the essential information. So you need to know about the extra information and essential information. What is the extra information? Extra information or additional information, you can say, or essential information. Essential information. So whenever you have the essential information, you have to use them in defining clause. Defining. And whenever you have the extra information, you have non-defining. Non-defining. Now what is the, how can you just separate them? So you can separate them with the help of the comma. Now let's see the sentence. Dr. Smith who is my neighbor comes to meet me in the office. Now you can say that Smith is already doctor, and Smith is also itself a name. So there are two ways by which you are just here not defining Dr. Smith more. It is used as a non-defining. So you can say that you can just understand in the form of the identifying or non-identifying, because Dr. Smith is already identified. Who is a Smith? Smith is doctor, and who is doctor? Doctor is a Smith already. Now you don't need to tell about Dr. Smith more and more in the sentence. So what do you have to do here? You are just giving the extra information about Dr. Smith. So whenever you give the extra information, they are under non-defining, and you have to put the comma. Here you have to put comma, and here you have to put comma to separate the sentence. Okay. You can't say that separate the sentence clearly, but you can say that separate the clause here. So now the clause is very clear. Where is the adjective clause, or where is the here principal clause? You can say that where is the independent clause and where is the dependent clause. Next thing you need to know here, that relative pronoun always looks back to its word. That word is, because it is relative pronoun, it is showing the relation. So this word is either the noun or pronoun. So here noun is mostly used. So you can see here that Smith is noun, and who is being used here to show where is a Smith. So you can say that a Smith is the antecedent of who. So whichever would be the word here, it would be who, whom, that, which, whose, here, where, when, or why. Okay. These would be always used after looking the previous word, and this word is known as an antecedent. Okay. Second one thing is that, as I have already written here, that who and whom, they are used for person. So Dr. Smith is a person, so who is used as a subject of the dependent clause or related clause here. So you can say that here relative clause is completely written or clearly written. So there are the two sentences if you just analyze the sentence, because they are written in the synthesis form. If you analyze the sentence, it becomes two. The first one is Dr. Smith comes to meet me, comes to meet, I just separate it. Dr. Smith comes to meet me in the office. Second one is Dr. Smith is my neighbor, is my neighbor. What do you find here? That in both sentences, Dr. Smith has been repeatedly used. Why? Because Dr. Smith is the subject of the sentence. In the first sentence, it is being spoken about Dr. Smith, or next sentence it is also being told about Dr. Smith. Okay. In both part of the sentence, Dr. Smith is here as a subject. So here who has been used as a subject. Who is who? Here Dr. Smith is who, and it is completely replacing Dr. Smith. You know that pronoun always replaces noun here. So noun here, noun has been replaced with the help of the who, and it is also showing the relation with the Smith. Who is a Smith? So Smith is the doctor, and who has been used in place of Dr. Smith as a subject of the relative clause. Okay. If you just use them in the object one, yes, let's see. Dr. Smith, you can write in this way, whom. Now I have just converted who to whom, but in informal English, who is also used in place of whom in objective case. Okay, but in written it is a strict, standard way to always use whom in a formal sense. So avoid using who here in objective. Dr. Smith, whom you called, comes to meet me in the office. It means there is a person, Dr. Smith, and someone called Dr. Smith. And who called? You called. So after who and whom, there is the chances of becoming a subject. If you don't use in this way, then you are using them incorrectly, not correctly. So you need to just use them in a correct way. After who or whom, if you use them who or whom in object, because whom is already or always used as an object, but who is also used here sometimes in formal English. So you can just try to avoid such mistakes in future. And after such words, whom or who, again subject is brought here. You is a subject and you is just calling Dr. Smith. Who is calling? You is calling. So you can just stick to make sense and to understand more and more about it like this. Dr. Smith comes to meet me in the office. Second sentence you can also write here. You call Dr. Smith. Now in earlier sentence, Dr. Smith was the subject, but here in this sentence, you is the subject of the sentence. So what is the object of the sentence? So subject is you, called is the verb, but Dr. Smith is an object. This is why in place of Dr. Smith here, whom has been used as an object. Okay, so it is used for the person who and whom, and it is used for only in objective case. Okay, now do you need to put the comma? Yes, because Dr. Smith has been used as a non-defining, so you can use here comma. Okay, let's see next one. Now next sentence is, my wife who is in New York will come today. Now look at the sentence, what is written. My wife who is in New York will come today. Now here, after my wife, I have not used here comma. Without comma, I have written the sentence. So this sentence is correct for those persons who have more than, or who has more than, you can say, one wives. More than one. 2 wives, 3 wives, 4 wives. Because here, who is before who, comma is not put here. So it is used as a restrictive sense, not conjunctive sense here. Okay, so my wife who is in New York will come today. Can't we write the same sentence in a non-defining order? Yes, you can write, but when you can write when you have only single wife. But the person who has more than one wife in some culture where it is practiced, or the person who has more than one wife, but one wife is dead and another one he has married, this sentence would be acceptable. But this sentence always says that all the wives you have, they are alive, they are not dead. So if the sentence accepts that one wife is dead and another wife is still living with someone else, or someone's, then you can say that this sentence would be here correct one, because my wife clearly gives the meaning of more than one wife if you don't put here the comma. The same sentence, if you write here with the comma, for example, if you put comma, then now it has been used as the conjunctive sense, and now you are giving the extra information.